You know, I could have sworn I heard someone say that Bruce Maddox was supposed to be an analogy for President Trump in Star Trek Picard. Odd that they kill him off almost immediately, and his only functional service to the plot was mainly just to provide a clue to help Picard keep moving down the path. Well, I'm sure in this new episode they'll have a full explanation as exactly how Maddox is like this.
Live from the WASPSERVATORY, this is another episode of WASPSERVATIONS with your host, King Waspinator.
Well, greeting, WASPServers. It is I, your Fuhrer of Fun, King Waspinator, and welcome to this, the Pre-Geek Glacial Maximum, where today we're going to talk about Episode 6 of Star Trek Picard. So this week was Episode 6 of Picard, our penultimate episode. I will say, you know, for the people who complained a lot about how The Mandalorian kind of waffled a bit in the middle of its first season with a bunch of random episodes that didn't have much to do with the central plot, Star Trek Picard at least has been doing a better job at not wasting their time with little random adventures. They kind of started to edge into that, but there's always relevant reasons, pretty much maybe with the exception of Episode 4. I mean, they just went to go pick up the kid for the sake of get the kid. But the Free Cloud episode was to get vital clues to move things along. And, okay, get some elephants in the room out of the way. The whole notion that Bruce Maddox was going to be the stand-in for Trump in this series has been pretty much revealed to be a complete and total lie, now hasn't it? And he basically just served as a way to get a clue into the character's hands so that they could get to a location that we, the audience, already knew about. And I know some people have made comments that it's kind of boring watching Picard and the gang try to find their way to the Borg cube when we, the audience, already know that's where Soji is. But in this episode, episode 6, I think we kind of start to see why they needed to get some things queued up with the audience so that when Narek finally takes Soji into the secret Romulan meditation chamber so he can play some mind games on her to get her to reveal the location of where she was manufactured. There's a lot of little things that happened in that sequence that were set up previously, from little things just like taking off her shoes and all that kind of stuff. That was the real reason for the stupid, we're going to slide around on this icy floor barefoot scene a couple episodes ago. That was to set up the fact that he's getting her comfortable with the idea of taking her shoes off around him and little things like that. So, yeah. I don't know, it was an exciting episode. I don't really know if there was really all that much to say. Well, for starters, Picard did make it to the Borg cube, and I personally thought his interactions with Hugh and like a lot of his dealing with long buried traumas and memories was handled about as well as one could be expected. I feel that for the complaints that have been levied about like this romance plot between Narek and Soji on the cube, it's classic Romulan head game kind of stuff. It's just a different kind of Mission Impossible thing, where instead of creating a false reality around her, doing that more kind of grounded intelligence community kind of thing of subverting somebody with intimacy and all that kind of stuff, making her feel like she can trust him and that he's in love with her and all that kind of stuff. And the best way to convince somebody is to have it be somewhat true. So he did have to make himself fall in love with her a little bit. You can see his reaction after he sets off the little radiation bomb in the room, after he gets her to finally reveal the location of where her lab had been, where she had been built. Overall, the main plot has been thrust forward quite a bit. We did get to see something that had been somewhat hinted at back in Voyager, but the fact that there is a central chamber that the Queen could use that could allow her to pass between Borg cubes, at least within a certain limited range, using a unique teleportation technology, which has been hinted at, and so Picard and Soji use that to escape. I will say, the little bit with Picard and Ellen, I guess, Mushmouth Romulan kid, whose name I have trouble clearly hearing. That guy, swordsman, the Romulan ninja. There's this scene where they have plenty of time to get through this little gateway that they open so that they can get off the Borg cube. But he's gonna do a heroic, I'll stand and I'll hold the guards off, and you guys go ahead, kind of a thing. And there's paced in such a way that it didn't really feel like the guards were like about to rush in on them that second. It felt like they had plenty of time to come along, and Picard's all like, I don't intend to leave you again, and the kid's like, oh, that hardens me, but go anyway. I'm going to stay here and chop up a bunch of Romulan guards. And then, yeah, he tries to fire him. Kid refuses to be fired. And so Picard and Soji go through the little gateway, and seconds upon seconds pass. Hugh and the kid go out into the hall, have time to close the door behind them, all this stuff, and the episode ends with the kid asking them not to end their lives uselessly. That whole line he said from the episode where Picard picked him up when he had a conversation with the Romulans at the Romulan racist bar. So, I don't know, overall I felt pretty satisfied with this episode, to a point where I don't really feel like I have a terrible lot to say about it. I'm sure there's going to be a whole litany of complaints from the usual suspects on YouTube who like to criticize the show. I will once again point out that most of their criticisms mainly just seem to be running through a list of plot elements and saying it in a sarcastic tone, as if that somehow makes these things bad in and of themselves. I don't know. I would like to assert that no amount of plot synopsises that you watch on YouTube is a true substitute for actually watching the show yourself. Pay your damn $6.99 a month. You can do it through Amazon if you don't want to have to sign up through a different service entirely, and you can get it all right through your regular Amazon streaming services like your Fire Stick or tablets or whatever you use. And watch Star Trek Picard yourself. It's good. It's not great, but it's good. It is different from old Star Trek, and I guess there's another real problem. Is when you really listen to what people are saying in, like, commentary streams and comment sections, the actual, viewers, more so even than the critics themselves, one gets the impression that what people were expecting and wanting from these CBS shows is that they're going to make brand new episodes of the old Star Trek shows. And I'm sorry, folks, that's just not ever going to happen. That happened on YouTube with personally financed little projects like Star Trek Returns and all that kind of stuff. But the big studios, they have no interest in resurrecting shows that have long since been canceled, that are being done in formats that just don't jibe with modern audiences anymore. It's still Star Trek. The writing is no more or less any better or worse than any of the other writing to be found in Star Trek. I mean, seriously, go back and watch some of the old stuff with a modern lens, like first season of TNG, that kind of thing. Every bit as ham-fistedly woke and poorly thought out science, and Star Trek has always had these problems. The main difference is that this show and Discovery also have structural differences in how the stories are being told. They're not little episode by episode parables. That's one big longer arc. And as we're getting further through Picard's first season story arc, you're starting to see a lot of the reasons why there's things in earlier episodes that seem kind of like they're just spinning the wheels, but what they're doing is they're setting things up for later to be paid off, at least hopefully. So Star Trek's always had awkward acting. Star Trek's always had a mixed, shall we say, interpretation of how science works. Sometimes good, sometimes entirely just pulling stuff out of their ass. That's always been the case. Watch the show yourself. Make up your own minds. I can't tell you if it's good or bad, because something being good or bad is up to you, because that's a subjective experience. And getting your opinions entirely from the opinions of other people on YouTube is not having an opinion on it. You don't know how you actually feel about this show. You know how you've been told how you feel about this show. And why are you letting other people tell you how you feel? So anyway, we'll end off here with a little brief update on my Lego lunar gas station. I'm still not quite sure what to name my little Lego set here. But y'all have a good one. And we'll see you next week for another episode of WASPSERVATIONS here from the Pre-Geek Glacial Maximum. Dun, 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Do 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 do.